Welcome to the Inside Digital Transformation Podcast. Inside Digital Transformation explores how organizations of every size and shape are using technology today to survive and thrive in the face of relentless change. If you are a business or technology leader charged with making the most of digital transformation in your organization, then this podcast is for you. And now here's your host, Alan Bernard, a technology journalist, editor, and copywriter who has been covering the intersection of business and technology for over 2 decades.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm speaking with Tom Pater, Vice President of Digital Workplace Technology at the insurance giant Nationwide, about how they are using digital technologies to create extraordinary experiences for the company's 30,000 employees. Post-COVID, 50% of Nationwide's employees work from anywhere, so the company transformed its personal tech department into the multidisciplinary Office of Workplace Experience. The goal is to meet employees where they are with the technologies they want to do their jobs with as little friction as possible. Tom, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great.
Thanks for the invite.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we're talking about workplace tech today. Let's start with defining what does workplace tech mean today?
Today we're focused on, when we think of workplace technology, we're focused on creating extraordinary employee experiences. And we can talk a little bit about what that is. And running the digital workplace organization, the predecessor to this was end user support, and it's exactly what you were saying. It's PCs and telephones and fax machines or otherwise. Now it's around how do we utilize all of this technology to create great experiences for employees. And that's more important than ever because our employees are distributed everywhere, whether even for companies that are bringing people back more and more, there's still this component of hybrid work. So today we think of workplace tech as all of the consumer technology that allows our associates and employees to get their jobs done. So within Nationwide, it's this division's broken up into a number of different things, certainly still PCs, and that includes both physical and virtual personal computers. Mm-hmm. It includes telephony, but telephony not as you used to think about it as a phone on your desk, but how telephony works, things like Teams calling or Zoom phone or those sorts of things.
Right.
Collaborate.
So even that next level up from mobile. Right.
Yeah, that's right. Collaboration and as you said, mobile. How do we allow associates to connect easily to others? How do we allow them to do it seamlessly, no matter where they are in this world, whether they're sitting in an office like I am today, or in their home, or on a cruise ship, or wherever they happen to be? Support's a lot different. How do we support those organizations? How do we support those employees and how they need it? If you think about it, Nationwide pre-pandemic had roughly, you can give me some leeway here, but roughly 100 associate occupied buildings where all of our employees worked. Now, post-pandemic, you got to think that we've got tens upon tens of thousands of locations as everybody worked from their home at least part of the week. So
because sorry to interrupt, but you guys have a hybrid work environment.
That's right.
That's ongoing now. That's not just
ongoing. That's the way we've chosen to go to market. We have a very strong hybrid workplace, as well as a number of our associates, about half of them that are permanent work from home. I actually think that this gives us a tremendous advantage, especially in recruiting associates as they want to be able to work from their home environments. But it creates, for people like me, whose job is to support these associates, it's a bit more of a challenge, because before I only had to worry about the network inside our buildings. Now I got to worry about everything inside our buildings and within their home environment. So our technology support organization, help desk, concierge, tech lounges, those sorts of things have to push that boundary out. And now we've got to support them the way that they want to work and the way they are working today.
Wasn't that the case before the pandemic, though? I mean, everyone talks about there is no more network edge, right? And certainly with mobile, I don't know if does Nationwide supply all the devices, or do you allow people to use their own?
It's a mix. For certain roles, there's a company supplied device. Think of somebody like maybe a claims adjuster. But then for the vast majority of people, they're running a container on their own devices. So we manage that container, and they're allowed to use their iPhone or their Android, whatever device they want to use, phone, tablet, et cetera. So you're right. It did exist before, but not at the level of what it does now, and certainly not to the point of, let's use one of my divisions as an example, the service desk. So this is a traditional help desk. You can get help through chat or phone, whatever. We had contact centers. Well, guess what? We don't have a contact center anymore. All those people are spread out across the United States. So we're running essentially a virtual contact center.
So you would bring them all into one place, 9 to 5, 5 to 11, 11 to 7, whatever the shifts were, right? And you'd have 100 or whatever the numbers are in a giant room sitting around answering service desk calls.
That's right.
Is that, okay.
Right. And now I'll tell you, we let them work where they want within the United States. We get better results. They're able to, interestingly, we get a higher on time rate, meaning they're ready to take calls when they need to or start chats or otherwise.
Okay.
They are more productive in their home environments. And I'm not saying that this works for every role or it's right for every company out there, but our experience so far has been that this has been a fantastic path for them. And then going along with that, one of the other divisions within workplace experience or workplace technology that is very different from pre-pandemic is we have a workplace experience group. We have both designers and researchers whose whole focus is on understanding, shaping, and helping us to imagine what this future of work looks like. I think if I had to say one thing within our organization that's giving us the special sauce where we've been successful and maybe others haven't been, is the fact that we've placed such an emphasis on understanding what the sentiment of our users are, our associates, understanding the tools that they need in order to be effective in this new way of work, and then designing our workplace practices for it. I mean, too many, not to go on a tangent here, but too many, I think, companies they're attempting in this hybrid workplace to replicate pre-pandemic office practices and translate them into the way that people are working today. We're saying, you know what, let's blow up that thinking. Let's think about what are the ways that we work today and will work in the future, and how would we design that if we were doing it for the first time? So we've been able to put in things that help our associates to be productive the way that they want to work today, rather than trying to replicate office-based practices that maybe don't translate well in a home environment.
Yeah, a great example would be 9 to 5, right? With 15-minute breaks and an hour for lunch. I mean, that just doesn't, I mean, I've been working from home since the year 2000. So I'm a bit of a pioneer, it turns out, in what is fairly commonplace now.
Right.
But I can tell you from personal experience, that just doesn't work. It's not the way the day flows.
That's right. That's right. And I think it's important you can't have your cake and eat it too, meaning you can't say we want flexibility in the workplace, but then we're going to measure to make sure everybody's on from 9 to 5 and we don't want overtime after that or things, or we don't want people sending email late. And I mean, here's the thing is, if I think of the benefit for a number of our associates is the idea that, hey, you want to go see your kids' school play at 2:00? That's great. And you're going to catch up later at 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 after dinner. That's fantastic too. Now, there are limits, right? Of course, we have some, like all companies, we have some shift-based work, contact center being a perfect one where we need to know who's on the phones when. But for core knowledge workers, without a doubt, I think we're in the golden age of work. This is an amazing time to be in a number of these fields where you can somewhat curate your own day and how it's going to work, and or based upon work group or team or otherwise.
Well, I guess, how does it change? So how does creating great experiences change the way that you think about the technology that you're putting in the field versus end user support?
That's right. That's right. And, so we use the term extraordinary experiences. Okay. So our whole mission in digital workplaces create extraordinary experiences. And when you approach something that way, number one, you're not looking at the lowest common denominator. I feel like end user support felt like the post office in 1987.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay, how much mail can we get through the system? The shift is a little bit on looking at the end-to-end way that our associates are working every day. And this doesn't mean that cost gets thrown out the window, right? We're a business like everyone else, and we don't have unlimited budgets within Digital Workplace to produce these experiences. But what we are doing is saying, let's understand how our employees are using the technology that we provide. How does it look within their days? And there's only one way to do that, and that's to understand how they're using it. Not for me to go back and say, what's the best deal I can negotiate for tool X, and then I'm going to force feed that into the organization. We need to understand what our employees need in order to be most effective within their organizations. And we have lots of examples of things that were not there pre-pandemic that have to be there during the pandemic and then post-pandemic, just to let people produce great work for the company.
Let's get some examples of that. And pre-pandemic, like I said, a PC, a laptop, a mobile phone, kind of table stakes, depending on the industry, a fax machine if you're in healthcare. But what else? The pre-pandemic would have fallen into that category, and then we'll go post.
Let's use a simple example. Even the laptop itself. Oftentimes companies, nationwide included, might have looked and said, what's the best deal for the most adequate PC we can purchase?
Gotcha.
Post-pandemic world, everybody's everywhere and doing different things and interacting in a digital way. Hey, maybe it's a necessity, not a nice to have anymore, to have touch-enabled devices. Because let's think of whiteboarding, for instance, a big part of so many of our lives. If you're sitting at home, there is no natural whiteboard for you to just go up, and I don't care what anybody says, taking your web camera over and pointing it at the whiteboard just not a long-term solution.
No.
So, but what we had were whiteboard solutions, and then people are trying to draw with their mouse, and it's just not working at all. And we said, you know what? Let's make the decision. Let's refresh our entire PC fleet. We refreshed about 30,000 units. And made sure that every single one, no matter which platform they were on, is a touch device. So they can use tools like FigJam or Microsoft Whiteboard or otherwise to visually represent what it is that they're thinking. And the workplace experience team spends a lot of time on things like personas and understanding individual needs, but really at a group level. So what does a field representative need? What does a actuary in our financial organization need? What does an investment professional need? And then we're curating what those bundles of technology that those different personas or groups of people need in order to be effective. But there are some things that are universal, and whiteboarding is one of those things. I think in the old way of thinking, we would have said, okay, so now we're digital, and why does somebody at a contact center need a whiteboard? We don't have to buy them a license. We can save on cost a little bit. And my thoughts on that are, would we really, let's say we had a contact center, would we have said, no, they're just contact center associates, they don't get a physical whiteboard in that? No, of course we wouldn't have said that. So why would we say it in a digital world? So let's figure out what they need. Let's give them the tools that are universal, and then let's add on for those things that are special for individual units. Some of our groups, developers, for instance, within the technology organization, need a little bit of a more powerful PC for some of the things they do. Our data analysts and data scientists, they need a more powerful device than I do, for instance, who basically spends my day in tools like Zoom and Teams and the Microsoft Productivity Suite.
So, the vanilla business laptop is okay. I've never had particularly good experiences with them, to be honest with you. And so they just seem to bog down pretty quick. And so when I bought my PC for myself, I went and got a gaming PC. And it has 3 graphics cards in it. This thing's never hiccuped once. So, right? And I'll bring it back to workplace tech. So now, given that everyone has remote, or a lot of people are remote, networking speed is more important than ever. And so doing everything you can to speed up a core laptop, the core essentials of a laptop or a PC, for example, by including network cards today, may not have been something you would have thought much of before the pandemic.
Right. And we have a lab that we're constantly testing new devices to understand how they how they perform. I'm looking over here at mine. It's a model for our executive team that has done really well, the HP Dragonfly, and I get more compliments on the Dragonfly in a regular week than I do for Macs, for instance.
Interesting.
And nothing against Macs.
No, they're fine devices.
Most of our users are PCs and
yeah, I mean, it's the business world, right? So
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Other than really, we allow Macs for our creatives inside the company, but really that's about it. But so they spend a lot of time, and then we use software to tell us what the experience is. We actually have a portal that we expose to the associates. They can go out and see how their PC is performing, as well as we get proactive alerts when a PC starts to degrade or if certain performance hits are happening on a user's PC, and we can proactively reach out to them to kind of see what's happening. And occasionally, of course, in a company this size, we have units that fail and need to be replaced on a regular basis. But the point is that we have things that are telling us what that user's experience is on the PC. We're trying to get ahead of the curve and making sure, number one, they have current hardware. Number two, that we understand how that hardware is performing. Number three, that if there is a problem, we have a dozen different ways that they can quickly get support. And then four, a number of self-diagnostic things. We released something called MyTech during the pandemic, again, because people wouldn't be in the offices. We wanted a simple way for them to see what their technology experience is. So, hey, you need to reset your password, one place to do it. You need to chat with the help desk, one place to do it. You want to, arcane stuff like Microsoft Teams isn't performing and you want to reset your Teams cache. You don't have to know how to do that. Just go out to MyTech and we have a little button you can push that'll reset your cache for you. It'll tell you when your PC was last rebooted, what its performance is. You can test your home network speed. You can do all these things. We really like to put things in that surprise the associates, like, wow, that was really easy. You need a new docking station for your home. We have a button you can push and it'll be there within 24 hours, delivered by FedEx right to your home. And these are the things that are necessary, I think, in the digital workplace world. And we can still do that cost effectively because we have a whole bunch of other costs by not having, whether it be so much real estate or different types of things that allow us to invest a little bit more in the digital world.
Oh, that's interesting. Has your budget gone up?
Interestingly, budget has gone down from pre-pandemic, but that's because we were doing a lot of things that we didn't really need to be doing. I'm not a big believer that the only way to create extraordinary experiences is to increase costs. We use our method of going to market in digital workplace is agile delivery, lean management, and positive energy. And the combination of those three things, we can deliver extraordinary experiences while also getting more efficient, while also doing great contract negotiation with our vendors, while also making sure we're as efficient as we possibly can be. So without quoting numbers, I don't want to get myself in trouble here. The budget is from, let's say, 2020, January 2020 to now, the digital workplace budget is down roughly 20-ish%. I'd have to look to see what the exact number is.
So, okay. So basically your NPS score is going up while your budget is going down.
That's right. And a lot of it is our focus on operational excellence. I'll give my boss a lot of credit in this space, Guru Vasudeva. He is a wonderful infrastructure leader. He gives us enough space across all of his divisions to be able to kind of say, okay, let's gain efficiencies where we can. I'll give you a real world example of that in a second, while investing in those things that we do want to higher touch. So a real world example is we have higher satisfaction scores on our service desk, our help desk right now than we did 3 years ago, but our costs are lower. How did we do that? Well, all those things that I just told you about self-help reduces what I would call nuisance calls, easy things that the user can remediate themselves. An emphasis on chat. Well, guess what? It's easier to run multiple chats for a help desk agent than it is. You can only be on one phone call at a time.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good.
So that cost coming down allows us to take some of what we've been able to save and reinvest it in things like now we have for our strategic employment centers that we still are running. We have tech lounges. Think of them like a little mini Apple store that people can come into and walk up service and get help with their PC right there. That's our highest rated service across all of my group.
That's a physical service?
That is a physical service.
Okay.
And we also offer it as virtual. So we created a physical tech lounge first. And then we said, okay, how do we replicate this experience for our at-home associates? And we created a virtual tech lounge that allows people to walk up quotes to a virtual lounge and get help. They can make appointments. They can do walk up. They can do all these things. So while we're saving cost in one division and harvesting some of that, like I said, I have a fiscal responsibility to the company.
Sure.
We're also not just saying, well, let's just keep take. Let's also reinvest some of that in higher end experiences that make sense for this new way that we work.
How does workplace tech fit into that?
If you think about it, workplace tech, we're one of the most, I would say, internal customer focused organizations in the company. Everybody in the company uses our products every day. So we have to be able to, and especially if somebody's having a problem with our tech, we have to be able to do things like de-escalate the situation. We have to be able to provide a world-class experience. And positivity or positive energy within the organization is a necessary trait to create great experiences when people might be having a bad day. And some of these things, they're not that hard to do. Like, these are natural things. And the reason why I like energy is because it is something that I think can be measured easily. And I would just phrase it this way of hey, when somebody interacts with you, or lots of people interact with you, do people come away feeling energized, even if it was a problem they were working on, or do they feel de-energized? Did you kind of go down with them into the trough? And like all organizations that have a support function, we have people that call or that are rather upset. We have people that
it's insanely frustrating. Tech is just so frustrating when it doesn't work, right?
So we oftentimes measure ourselves. I like to think of for our service organizations within the group. I like to benchmark us against not necessarily other tech companies, but companies like the Ritz-Carlton or the Walt Disney Company or others. How do we create those types of delightful, extraordinary experiences? And to do that, you have to have this positive energy about you. If you don't, I kind of think we're doomed. And
then how does a tech either enable that, right? Or I don't know if disable would be the right word, but impede it.
Right. And we can very easily impede people having a good day. I'll give you an example. 3 years ago, pre-pandemic, when our patches for the PC fleet went out when they went out for the most part. One of the things that seems so simple and so logical, it's actually a little harder than it sounds, but was simply giving users the option of when those patches installed. Now, I'm not talking for any cybersecurity people on the that are listening.
It's not a week and a half. It's
0 days or other sorts of things. Sometimes we do have to push and we do have to make the user take that. But what we've done is said, hey, just tell us your business hours when you want to be most productive, and we'll schedule patches for you at a different time. And we take that, not to make, this applies to all of our divisions, but PC sometimes is the easiest to explain to people. But we take concepts like that and we apply it everywhere within digital workplace. If we look at what our daily lives our daily work lives as an experiment, we're coming into work not just to do our jobs, but to figure out how to do our jobs better every day. And we're creating this environment, number one, where it's safe to take risks, where we teach people problem-solving skills, where our managers are viewed as coaches and problem-solving teachers within the organization. It creates this flywheel that just empowers us to create these experiences.
So what's interesting, and I'm finding a little fascinating about this conversation is, I came into it thinking we were going to talk about, as we just discussed, mobile and laptops and things like that. And really what we're talking about is the future of work. Because that's what we're experiencing now. Before the pandemic, I saw plenty of things, about the future of work and what it might look like. And, how is it going to be distributed architectures, and how do you, right, and using cloud to make sure that you are able to provide X, Y, and Z. Well, that showed up in 2 weeks. Right? It went from this is the way it might be to this is how it is. Right. And so the future work is here. It's now. It happened already. And so how are you using what you do to enable that future to be a better one than it was pre-pandemic, right?
Right. So when we look at this, number one, I would say that we don't do it alone. There's a partnership, I would say a really tight partnership between Digital Workplace, our human resources group, and our real estate division. So,
okay. I did a podcast with, I can't remember his name, Stephen. Anyway, he's the one of the VPs over at KeyBank, around design thinking. And I was wondering, are you familiar with that process? And
I am. Design thinking is a core of what our workplace experience.
So how do you use those principles to make decisions around the tech that you're putting in the field?
It's a great question. So one of the things that we did that's a little bit different within Digital Workplace is we created a product owner model. So think of product owner for collaboration systems, or let's use something that's physical, telephones, voice, telephony, whatever phrase we want.
Right.
The product owner for that technology does not sit in that engineering organization. She sits within the Digital Workplace Experience Group. So you've got a group that is wholly responsible for understanding associate sentiment. We would call it voice of associate. They're responsible for product ownership of all of the technologies across Digital Workplace. And they have this kind of wonderful engine that's constantly producing ideas, improvements, or otherwise based upon either user feedback or their reimagining of the space using techniques like design thinking.
Okay, cool. Well, for those not familiar with it, design thinking is the core concept of design thinking, as I understand it. You're just simply putting the human at the center of the solution, right? Not the problem, but the solution. And how do we, and then kind of work out from there, right?
Right.
As opposed to putting, say, a technology at the center of a solution and then trying to shoehorn the human into the right? Which is how it's been done for ages, right?
Right. I love the way you phrase that.
Okay, cool. How are you measuring your successes and your failures?
That's great. And measurement of digital workplace is a tough topic. Number one, across all of our products, we measure user satisfaction. And it does vary a little bit by product, by necessity, but you can think of things
like an NPS type thing?
Yeah, I was going to say you can think of things like NPS, certainly use caller satisfaction for the help desk. But then we go a little bit deeper. We measure what I would call digital behavior scores. And that is not just that satisfaction or otherwise, but can people use our products the way they were intended to be used? And they will do different things for different products, but that can be things as simple as, hey, do I Microsoft Teams? Am I using? Microsoft has some different scores that give you kind of your digital behavior within some of these products. But are you using this product to its full extent? Are you able to do the things that you would want you to be able to do? FigJam is a great example. So for a group that we know are heavy visual thinkers, do they actually use FigJam, or how stale do boards get after somebody initiates one? Are they using it on a regular basis? But we do that. We curate a whole set of digital behaviors within the organization, and then we measure them and report them up, but we aggregate.
So what do you do when you find that what you've done or thought was going to work well isn't?
Oh, that's easy. We just change course.
So you just
There's
pull the plug. It's the fail
no
fast.
pride here. We make mistakes just like everybody else. If
Sure,
we
of
pull
course.
something out that's garbage, we take it back. We've put out a number of things out there that we thought and we invested in. We thought were going to work. They didn't work out. We scrapped them and moved to something else.
So what you're doing is very much, you talk about voice of the employee, right? The corollary in marketing is voice of the customer.
Right.
And it's you're executing very similar techniques, I guess, right? Focus groups, surveys that your marketing department is using to get an understanding of how customers feel about your product set, right?
That's
and the
exactly
services.
right. That's why I wanted somebody from marketing to run our digital workplace experience group. Somebody
How new is that?
understands stuff.
How new is that at many organizations at the enterprise class of Nationwide? Is that something that was going on beforehand, or is this somewhat new?
This is a new group. We started it up shortly after I came on board.
Okay.
We actually, I think it's pretty innovative. There are a few groups, Gartner and some others, that have asked if they could do a full-scale case study on it. We've had some success that I think others are struggling to hit. And to be honest, I think the secret sauce is that we have a heavy emphasis on workplace experience. It gives us intel that other people, I think, are just grasping at. They're just guessing or going by gut instinct, whereas we have the data that tells us when we hit the mark and when we miss the mark.
All right. Well, Tom, thank you very much.
Absolutely. I enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, it's been a great call. If you liked this episode, please tell your friends and check out our other shows. You can find Inside DT on all the major hosting platforms, including Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Google. Talk to you soon.